Hi, welcome back, everybody. What we just heard was the clean version of Kick Out the Jams by MC5, a premier Detroit band. The actual version starts out with a yell with, with a word in there that we're not supposed to say on the radio. If it was just a podcast, we could tell people. The radio, we can't say. Um, you worked a lot with MC5, didn't you? And when maybe we should. Well, you give a little MC5 background if you can, because
Sure.
so people, if they don't know them.
Well, the word that you're talking about, what most people know about the MC5 is that they were a band who had this rallying cry, "Kick out the jams, MFers," um, and it was something that the band that would say to bands that they would open up for at the Grandee Ballroom, a big ballroom in Detroit that was like the Fillmore
Hmm.
in West. And I actually was the Coca-Cola girl there. Well, the Pepsi-Cola girl, that's what we sold. But so I knew them because, I worked there and they were the house band. So I witnessed a lot of their shenanigans. They were the most dangerous band I'd ever, maybe they and Led Zeppelin are on equal footing on dangerous bands in terms of like morally, psychically, emotionally dangerous, but also the ability to elicit that kind of response in their audience. It's like they were on a good night, they were unbeatable. It's like they were a band who were anthemic, and they used to talk a lot about their high energy. And a lot of it's concentrated in this rallying cry because they would always diss California bands like Big Brother and the Holding Company or Spirit or whomever was coming out in like the late 60s. And they would hiss from the side of the stage, "Kick out the jams, MFers," just to kind of like how a catcher would rile up a batter, like just kind of heckle the bands. And they turned that into a song. And that song really struck a chord with people. And it it got them kicked off their record company. It created so many problems with them. I mean, it really was a good blow for anti-censorship, I mean, because here we are over 50 years later and you still remember them. They just got inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Um, Myself and Brad Tolinsky and Ben Edmonds, who you might have remembered from Cream,
Oh,
just yeah, I just did an oral history. This was Ben's life work. This is how Ben Edmonds ended up in Detroit. He was a Boston kid and he saw the MC5 in New York, and he decided to move to Detroit so he could be closer to them. And he got a job at Cream. And he was working on doing this comprehensive book on the MC5. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2014. And he called me and said, "You have to finish my book for me." And he was one of my closest friends and co-editor at Cream. So I said, "Okay, no problem." And I booked a flight to Detroit. And for 3 weeks, I thought I could finish it in 3 weeks. Either it's still hidden or I couldn't find it, or there wasn't anything written, but there was nothing except there were bankers boxes to the ceiling of interviews he had done with the MC5 over after they broke up. So this is a band with this kind of cheeky, rebellious, dangerous past, spilling all their secrets. So myself and Brad Tolinsky took all of them and created an oral history, which is a lot like a play, a morality play, like the history of a band in their own words. And we put it out this year. It's called An Oral Biography of Rock's Most Revolutionary Band. But
it
it's a
was, and it was revolutionary. I mean, they had the White Panther Party.
they created the White Panther,
Yeah, yeah,
the king of the hippies, John Sinclair in Detroit.
yeah.
And yeah, they created their own religion, Zenta. Um, they were beautiful men. It was like they had what their ethos was rock and roll, effing, and like it was like they had this creed that was, again, when I say dangerous, like it doesn't even begin to describe who they were, you know.
Wayne Kramer from the band wrote a great book. If you ever read it about
I,
those days and what mainly about what happened to him, but and he's the only guy in the band I got to know, because by the time I got to Detroit, I guess they had broken up or they weren't around anyway. So I didn't even do a story on them at that point. But
Yeah,
Wayne and I met out here in California, and he's a great guy, beautiful
yeah,
guy.
really great guy who also passed away recently.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they they were real like ambassadors of Detroit. They were probably the most Detroit band you'd ever meet. You know,
They
it's that,
really were. They
yeah,
really
no pretense, kind of blue collar-ish, you know. I think the thing about Detroiters are they don't have airs, you know, they're straight speakers, they tell you what they mean, and you know, they do what they say. What
were.
they're for good or bad. And I think that really characterizes that band, and especially Wayne.
And
I miss
the
that band.
PMC in the name is Motor City 5.
Yeah, it is.
So can't get any deeper in the
Oh, no. We Detroiters take it really, really seriously where we're from, you know.
yeah. I
Can't.
was away there for a few years, but met some great people that are still friends to this day, and I got to interview a lot of people, and it was great fun.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Um, Cream magazine today, um, how does it compare to
You know, when I first started on this relaunch,
and I'm sort of actually in attitude. I know it's not on the newsstands, but in attitude, in approach, it's
oh
basically
yeah, it is. It's well, we hired a lot of people in the beginning. It was a really big staff. You know, we had people who were from NPR and people who were from Vice and like almost ringers. And what was different is that they came with college degrees and big portfolios, which was different from our original cream with Dave Marsh and Lester Bangs and Roberta Kruger and Charlie Oranger. Like all of us were college dropouts who had no idea what we're doing. I mean, I was on my way to, you know, getting my journalism degree and dropped out. I mean, Lester Bangs once wrote one of my papers and he got a B- on it. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing, but in the not knowing what we were doing, we created something wonderful and new. Um, in the 3 years that we've relaunched, the the big staff has shrunk down to three of us, three in the editorial department, who have that same kind of ethos that we cover what I said before, what we hate and what we love and nothing in between. And it's kind of like you feel like giddy sometimes with like pulling off these stunts with artists. It's just we're doing a lot with a small staff, but you know, you bounce off, you feel like, and it's Saturday Night Live because of the 50th anniversary, you think a lot about that. But what I've always thought, I felt like we were the writer's room at Saturday Night Live. Like we bounce off ideas now and then, and that's the same. It's like there is this craziness, this getting away with something, this putting artists in difficult situations and getting them to get themselves out of jams almost. You know, we don't just sit down in a record company office and interview somebody. We put them, like this last time we did this woman in this band called Weather Station, and she dyed clothes for us because she dyes clothes for her band members. And we thought, okay, well, that's what we'll do. So we sent a photographer to Toronto, and she dyed clothes for her story. Then we had Steve Vai, the famous genius guitarist, and
sure.
he showed us his he keeps bees. So we like to show these other sides of these people.
Mm.
So I think that part of Cream's the same. I mean, you might miss sections like Eleganza that Lisa Robinson did, the fashion column, or you know, the letters from the editor are still pretty wacky. I don't do the film box anymore. So we've updated the columns, but again, it's that kind of punch you in your face kind of love-hate situation that we have with artists.
Uh, there were artists who didn't like Cream. I mean, I guess that they didn't like the honesty of Cream.
Yeah, or Jonathan Richman once told me he didn't like it because he thought we were mean. So yeah, maybe.
It could be looked at that way.
Yeah. No,
But
you people knew, it's like you go on Howard Stern's show and you know what you're getting into. If you agree to be interviewed by someone from CREEM then and now, you know what you're getting into.
yeah,
So if you don't want to, just say no.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's a t-shirt. If you don't want to, just say no.
Yeah. Wait, didn't we already do that chapter?
That's true. Well, it's um there are other Detroit bands that were going on at that time. Maybe notably would be the Stooges. Iggy
Yeah,
and the Stooges. They were Ann Arbor officially, but
yeah,
they broke out of that marketplace, and all of that was going on, and that was to me was like what would the word be? It grew out of the MC5 sensibility.
yeah. They used to call them, that's our little brother band.
Oh
And
yeah,
they got signed by Danny Fields, who later, discovered the Ramones, became their manager, but he signed both the Stooges and the MC5, but it was Iggy and the Stooges that he loved, that he felt like that creative spark. The Stooges touched something that other bands didn't. It was like this primitivism, this kind of, you can do it, a good idea will carry you just as far as being, an accomplished musician. I mean, Iggy is not like anybody that you'll ever meet. It's like, can you wake Iggy up in the middle of the night and is he still Iggy? Yeah, he just came out that way. He's like nobody I've ever interviewed before.
um, I want to talk about a Michigan band. Um, again, that I didn't get to see because they were broken up by the time I got there, but everybody thought they were just going to explode wide open, which is the Rationals.
Oh, they were so amazing. I
And that was before your writing days, wasn't it?
Yeah, I knew them just because I was a teenager on the scene, hanging out at malls, open air malls. But I knew them all because Detroit and Ann Arbor were very small little subcultures. If you were into music, it was like the Straights and the Heads, people who smoke pot, girls who wore short dresses. It was kind of a tribe-like thing. And the Rationals were one of all of our bands. Like Scott Morgan sang like an angel and still does.
Yeah. And SRC is another band that came out that
Yeah.
didn't get its just desserts.
No, they were really extraordinary. They were one of my favorite bands. And I mean, they had that hit, I'm So Glad, but they were very, like, you'd think that they dropped in from Carnaby Street. They were beautiful and wore amazing clothes and were kind of fey, but they had really, really great songs.
Well, let's listen. The Rationals are known for, I think, the original, well, other than
They
Otis Redding,
predate
original
they
Respect.
predated Aretha's
Yeah,
version of
yeah.
Respect.
So the Rationals doing um, Respect, and we'll be back after this break. Thank you.